Right, everyone, Celtic's penultimate match of pre-season is over with. We've got one to go now. It was a 1-1 draw against Wolves this afternoon in Dublin at the Aviva Stadium. Generally quite enjoyed that, John. I think we've spoken in the past about maybe not being huge fans of pre-season friendlies, but I thought that was all right.
You can tell Celtic are getting up to kind of the levels that we're maybe used to. Thought we looked a lot sharper today. It was notable that Rodgers gave like the core of the team more minutes on the pitch. It wasn't a half and half thing. Obviously, did get substitutes in that second half, and that breaks up the flow of the game. But I thought for a good hour in that game, Celtic were comfortably the better side against Wales, and I quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed their overall game, and I felt personally Celtic were good value for a win. So I think Wales are a bit lucky to escape with a draw from that, from my perspective.
It's always interesting seeing us going up against English Premier League opposition because, we both know, everyone watching this knows that Celtic are, a Premier League team effectively in terms of all the things you would use to measure that other than the TV revenue that we have coming in. But you see in terms of the support we have today, and I always think it's really interesting actually seeing us up against like Wolves, who are kind of like a mid-table Premier League team. I mean, I wouldn't expect them to be relegated this season. So I always find it interesting just how good are these Celtic players. We get a bit of a kind of feeling of that in Europe. Obviously, friendlies are a bit different, but I really do think we stood up well in that match, and the players that we see coming to the fore domestically were also absolutely fine at that level. I mean, Kyogo looked really, really threatening against. As I say, a Wolves defence that probably cost about 100 million to assemble. Abada looked good. I think Dyson Maeda has probably been the success story of pre-season so far. And even some of the subs when they came on, I thought they added something to the game. I thought there was a lot of positives there today.
There was a lot of positives, especially in that first half. And I think what's also good about playing teams like this is it's probably more representative of how we might play a team in Europe. Whether it's the Champions League or the Europa League. It's not a team that sits in against us. It's not a team that sits really deep. And I think we still have to see how this team functions against a team like that. But I think it's clear against a team that's going to leave a fair bit of space at the back and allow us to get in behind them. I think we have the pace to punish teams like that. And I thought that was really apparent in that first half in particular, where you're looking at McGregor and Hatate. As soon as they receive the ball, they're turning, looking for the front three. And Abada, Maeda and Kyogo are just deadly in that kind of situation. And we actually got in behind them 2 or 3 times, probably should have, scored more goals than they eventually did. But yeah, it was pleasing to see that kind of aspect of it, kind of the danger from Celtic of that front six against a team that might be more representative of what we may face above the Scottish Premiership level.
Because, for me, you look at Celtic over the last couple of years, and even kind of going back further to the Rodgers days, the emphasis was always passing football, and that's still what you would say about Celtic. When you think of how Celtic play, you always think, they play out from the back. That was obviously amplified under Postecoglou. But for me, even looking back at those couple of seasons under Ange, it was Celtic were at their best when they were being direct, when they had players running in behind, stretching the game. You think back to Europe, and I was thinking earlier, probably the vast majority of goals we scored in Europe, particularly away from home, were counter-attack goals, away to Leverkusen, away to Betis, away to Ferencváros, Alkmaar, Shakhtar at the start of this season. That's kind of what you have to do. Leipzig as well, this season the one that Jota scored was a counter-attack. So that's kind of what you have to do, and we look frightening when we do it. And sometimes it's not it's not zipping the ball about needlessly in the midfield. It sometimes is, as you say, McGregor just gets it and just looks over the top, and it doesn't even have to be a good ball half the time. It's a simple ball over the top, and you've got Abada running, Maeda running, and when those two are running, who's going to be alongside them in the middle? And he could have had 2 or 3 goals today from that if the final ball was better. And that's my one frustration. I think those 3 look great, really happy and excited about them. It's that final ball, getting the weight right, getting the accuracy right.
I tell you what though, it was really good to see Kyogo looking right on it and right up for it. I mean, it was his harrying and pressing that led to the goal that he scored. But, there's been, obviously he's had some fitness issues this pre-season in terms of his shoulder. There was a bit of chatter about him surgery on his shoulder, etc., etc. I think it's clear that he's ready for the new season. He'll be ready to go next week, ready to start that game against Ross County. And I think that's a big boost just based on the way the pre-season's gone up to this point. So I was pretty pleased with that. And I agree, I think they look dangerous and we just need to see how it develops. As I say, the majority of teams in Scotland are going to sit in against us, and it's almost a different game I have to play, a different style of play, a different style of approach play. But you saw elements of that again today, where Kyogo was coming a little bit deeper in the previous two friendlies. Maeda was also dropping in a little bit into the midfield. So I think Rodgers is going to bring that central striker in a bit and try and work around him, and that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Sorry, I'm quite in the dark here. It's getting darker and darker as well because the sun, you won't believe this, John, in the west coast of Scotland, the sun has gone away.
Wonderful.
Unbelievably. It doesn't happen often. But I've gone quite dark and red, so we'll persevere anyway. But you're looking bright anyway, so you're obviously getting a wee bit of sun. I agree with you. I thought, the huge positives in that play. And personally, I don't have any doubts over this team next Saturday against Ross County being able to break opposition teams down, because they have plenty of experience of that domestically. Midfield, I just think Callum McGregor, again, days like today just show what a class player he is. He's just fabulous. I mean, people going about Hatate, and Hatate's clearly immensely talented, probably the most talented player we have, but McGregor is not far behind him in terms of his ability to take the ball in the turn, to drive with it and to find the right pass.
There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that Callum McGregor could play week to week in the Premier League and play well in that league.
The top end of it.
Yeah, possibly at the top end, but certainly could play consistently in that league. And I think we're very lucky to have him. And the fact that we've had him sign a new long-term contract, we've had Kyogo sign a new long-term contract who is looking good. I think it's just, that's quite exciting. I do think there's, certain issues in the team, and we need to see how the new guys, gel and get up to speed, but I'm really happy with the players that we've got that have been playing together for the last two seasons. That, fingers crossed, touch wood, the majority of them are kept together before the end of this transfer window.
Yeah, and Hatate might be the main one we're talking about. James wondering, is it just me or does Hatate look unhappy? I think that's maybe just his demeanour in general. I think he's quite a kind of non-plus guy half the time. I just think he kind of mopes about and then does amazing things on the pitch. He's nonchalant. Is that a good word to describe him? He's nonchalant. I would describe him as. Look that one up. He lets everything come in his stride, and he seems almost above everything. But that's just the way he plays. That's just the way he is. So I wouldn't read too much into it, to be quite frank with you. New boys, Hamish. What did you think of the first glimpse of Yang, the first glimpse of Kwon, who, for me, just quickly, the latter of them, Kwon, looked very up for it. He looked like he really wanted to impress. Yeah, there's always a feeling when you sign a player and you don't know much about them, and you kind of get a thought in your head, and maybe you generalise sometimes, where they've come from and stuff like that, and you get an image in your head without seeing them play. And I think there was stuff about Rodri as well in South Korea, kind of likeness to that, which would obviously be very happy about if that proved to be the case. But you kind of watch him, and I'm kind of expecting a really tidy player who maybe might be a wee bit weak in the tackle. I don't know. That's maybe what I had in my mind, but he's getting fired in right away. The first thing he did was to win the ball and then lay it off for Yang to cut inside and fire an effort at goal from about 30 yards. And I'm kind of thinking, wow, you've got a bit of belief about you, Yang. So I like that. It was a massively small. It was a really small sample size. Of course, yeah. We really can't jump to too many conclusions about that. But I do think they both will have something to offer this season. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. First impressions of them both, it just felt like Kwon was very enthusiastic and Yang was just like, kind of looked like he was living his dream, as he said it in his interviews this week. He kind of looked like that he was desperate to impress. And one thing Yang said in his interview is that he needs to work on his strength and conditioning. He said that himself.
And I think that was apparent at times. So we'll see how it all develops from here. But quite excited to see more of new players. I always love a new signing, Hamish. So liked seeing as many as I can, really.
I think we'll see a bit more of them on Tuesday as well, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a bit more at home as well on Tuesday at home.
Yes. What did you think of the penalty, the Wales penalty? As the dive for
I
me?
think Todd Cantwell had signed with Wolves. I think it's funny because I think Doherty and Joe Hart, they were kind of chatting at full time, and I think they would have played together at Spurs, so they probably do know each other a bit. I'll be honest, I kind of haven't actually really seen a replay. I kind of looked at a replay, but then I heard the commentator on Viaplay, I think it was an Irish team, and they kind of were saying that there was some sort of contact, but I haven't actually seen it myself.
I didn't see one single bit of contact. It looked to me it was a blatant dive. Definitely looking for it. I mean, Hart got up pretty much straight away and pointed at him and said, "You dived there." So for me, it was a blatant dive, not a penalty. And it's just unfortunate because, as I said, I think overall Celtic really deserved the win with the amount of chances that we created over the piece. And Wales had one big chance in the first half where the guy skies over the bar. Cunha, I think it was, skies over the bar. Celtic hit the bar twice in the first half, created another handful of opportunities, and really should have been 3 or 4 up at one stage, to be frank with you. So the fact they've escaped with a draw is what it is, but it's a good test for Celtic, and increasing confidence seems to be a little bit of positive momentum, and hopefully that carries into Tuesday night against Athletic Bilbao, and then obviously the game that actually matters, which is next weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling quite relaxed about things generally. I think we're going in a kind of good direction. I don't know about you. It's been a weird pre-season. Like I feel as if pre-season's been like really short this year. I don't know if it's because the Portugal trip wasn't like the matches weren't aired live or anything like that. But I mean, literally 8 or 9 days ago, we were seeing Celtic for the first time since the Scottish Cup final, and now suddenly Ross County game will be over in a week's time. So it's felt like a really kind of short pre-season. I'm not against that because I don't really have a lot of time for pre-season, but generally I feel quite positive about the way we're going. I think we've seen in recent days that transfer business can be done quickly and efficiently.
Hopefully,
hopefully more comes in. But Tuesday night, back to Celtic Park. Hopefully, get a good crowd in for that. Great crowd today, by the way. What was it, over 28,000 in Dublin for a game that we had, I think, 17 days' notice, and they were looking for €45 for the cheapest ticket. I think. I just think that's an incredible crowd when you consider that Wolves had like literally one tiny stand. I thought it was great. So more of that on Tuesday. Sold out next Saturday. 3 points. We'll be top of the league this time next week, John, and everything will be well.
That's what I believe. I mean, just on the transfer front, it's been weird from that perspective too, because we've front-loaded the window with quite a lot of players you consider young prospects that might not make an immediate impact on things. But that's to be proven. I mean, we thought that about Abada, for example, when he first arrived, etc., etc. But I do feel like the Polish defender coming in is much more of the kind of player that Rodgers would have prioritised in terms of he's big, physical, he's adding depth to that centre-back area. And I think that's what Rodgers pretty much said he was looking for in an interview. So it feels like we're kind of getting round to the players and the positions that Rodgers maybe would prioritise after coming in and looking at the squad. So fingers crossed again that we just move quite quickly on stuff over the next few weeks, because it is only a few weeks. It's not like we've not got months to add to the squad, and I think we do need 2 or 3 players, quality players in that squad to kind of push the levels up a bit and keep the standards as high as we want them to be.
So what positions would you be kind of looking at in terms of, if you're talking about maybe Narodsky, I think that's how we're pronouncing it, being like a kind of first team player, what other positions would you want that kind of player in? Left wing?
Yeah, I think we need a Jota replacement, like an outright quality first team, ready, got a bit of experience under his belt, proven, he doesn't need to be a £20 million player. I'm not saying that, but I do think we need a guy who can come in and replace the contribution that Jota gave us, because
Yeah.
Jota will be a big missile for the season. We're talking about we want Celtic to be quite clinical in areas where we're opening space. Jota was quite good at that, and I think that if we don't replace Jota, then that would be a concern. I still think we will. I still think there's plenty of time, and I know we've signed a couple of wingers already, but I'm really looking for quality in that position. And then it really depends who's out there and what Rodgers is thinking, whether he wants someone else to compete in that midfield. I know we've got loads of players on the books, so it might be a case of moving players on and stuff. But it really depends on what Rodgers is thinking. But it was a good start getting the defender in. I know people are clamouring for a goalkeeper at the moment. Like there's a lot of fans talking about the goalkeeping situation, and
It's valid,
Joe Hart's,
isn't it?
Yeah,
to
no,
an
I
extent?
agree.
Yeah.
Joe Hart's not had the best pre-season, and I think that's added to it a little bit. And I think if the right goalkeeper is out there to replace Joe Hart, I think Celtic would do well to move for that person. But it's difficult. I think it's a really difficult position to recruit for. And we'll need to see how that one plays out. There was rumours we were looking at Livakovic, but that's dried up and he looks to be going elsewhere. So it will be interesting to see if we kind of another keeper comes up in the rumour mill, and if we're actually actively looking to replace Joe Hart, or whether we're kind of waiting for the right person to come along.
Yeah, Sugarman just firing in saying keeper, left back, striker, and left winger. The striker one's a really interesting one for me. I was listening to the Celtic Exchange podcast earlier in the week, and they were talking about the need for a striker. I think they were all agreed that we needed to bring a striker in, given Kyogo's kind of injury chat and the stuff about his shoulder, and maybe they felt that O wasn't quite ready for that, and I can see that point. And especially when the Asian Cup is happening at the start of next year, and there's a fair chance we could be without Kyogo, O and Maeda for that, and not really have anyone maybe who could play in that role. But is there room for another striker when you've got Kyogo followed by O, and now we know Maeda can play up there as well? And I mean, O's not competitively. O wasn't getting massive opportunities, since he arrived at the club, and I'd really want to see him given those this year. So I know strikers are always a position people always kind of want one in because it's really exciting signing a new striker. But do you feel we need another striker with the Asian Cup in mind?
Yeah, it is a difficult one. I don't really have an answer either way. What I would say is, I think that situation also depends on what's going on with Ayeti, because, and I'm not saying Ayeti's going to come back into the squad, far from it.
So
he arrived for a big fee and will be on decent wages. So,
yeah,
like, do you bring in another player when you've still got that in the books? I'm not sure if Celtic would do that. So it's a difficult one. If we move Ayeti on, which I think we obviously should, because I don't think he has a part to play at Celtic, then you're looking at you maybe wanting another one, because Maeda can play through there, but he's only really done it in friendly so far this season under Rodgers. Like, how much are you trusting him to be like an alternative option to Kyogo? Like, realistically, across the season in high pressure, high quality matches, is Maeda the man through the middle? Or could we look to bring in real quality? Like, I'm talking like a proper good player to come in and compete. But you saw what happened with Mud Giakoumakis as well. Giakoumakis starts getting a bit itchy because he's not playing as much as he likes, starts wanting to move away of his own. So it's hard to keep really quality players, all happy and firing together when you've got someone like Kyogo, who's obviously going to be starting every single week for us when he's fit.
Yeah, it's what happens when he isn't fit. That's the thing. I think the big thing is we don't yet know exactly what O is, and I really have high hopes for O. I've liked him from day one. I like the way he plays. He scored, I think, probably 5, 6 or 7 goals already, so he knows where the back of the net is. But we're still to find out whether he could be that main man for a significant period of time if Kyogo is injured. And let's not forget, Kyogo has missed significant periods of time pretty consistently through his Celtic career. Maybe that's slightly harsh, but you know what I mean. He's missed, I think, first season he missed 3 or 4 months. Second season he missed a period as well. So It's all about what happens when Kyogo isn't in that team, and I can see why people maybe look and think, I really want a top striker to come in and keep improving things. But I think you're right as well. It's like it's we only play one striker most of the time. How do you get game time for them all?
I mean, my answer to that is that we already have a top striker, I feel like, and he's just signed the new long-term contract, and I don't think that would have been the least the cheapest thing in the world to sign up a player of his quality and keep him firmly happy and rebuff any interest that might have been grown in him from other leagues. So I think we've got that top striker. Really, it's really what we're doing around him. As I say, I think that left wing position for me is the real priority at the moment. Especially with Jota leaving. 100%. Like, that's the one we should be focusing on for me at the moment. And then what comes after that is really about the players that are available to us. I'm not really looking at the team and thinking he gets punted automatically. I'm looking at the team and thinking it'll need to be a really good player coming in to replace him. And I'm happy to do that. I'm happy for Celtic to pursue upgrades. But I'm not looking at the squad at the moment and thinking that he needs punted, because I don't think we're in that position. From my perspective, I don't feel like we're in that position.
Yeah.
You think differently. You're thinking what? You're thinking Hart?
Well, I'm suddenly sitting here thinking, I went really Charlie Nicholas there, sorry. We need to sign quality, first team quality, and I'm kind of looking around the team and I'm going, where does that come in? And, if you're talking about first team quality, right back, I think Alistair Johnson is going to be excellent. Well, he is excellent. When he comes back, he'll be excellent. Centre backs, I think between Starfelt, Narodsky and CCV were sorted. Left back, maybe we could come back to that one. Midfield, I mean, how many kind of defensive, if you want to call them that, / centre midfielders do we have at the club? We've probably got about 8 or 9 now. I mean, they're all there. I think Iwata could be a huge player for us this season in midfield. He's been good at right back, but I think he'll play in midfield. Right wing, in terms of wingers generally, right wing Tilio, Yang, Abada, again, I think that's all right. Forwards, as I've just said, I think we're fine. So I'm basically left with left wing, which I think is a certainty, and I think we will sign a quality player. I think we'll make a major signing there. And goalkeeper I'm looking at, I'm just thinking, and it's not going to ruin my season or ruin my summer if Joe Hart is in nets this season, because I think Joe Hart's been a brilliant Celtic signing. I really do. I think he's offered us a lot over the last couple of years, both on and off the pitch. I think for £1 million or whatever he costs, I think he's been a brilliant signing. But now at this stage, if we want to just kind of keep moving forward, he looked uncomfy a fair bit today, and he looked uncomfy against Marinos as well with the ball at his feet. And I would really like to see a top goalkeeper signed, and I think Livakovic was the one who was really exciting everyone.
No, that was an exciting one because he plays at a really high level with Croatia, and he's a really good goalkeeper. But for me, that's kind of what I'm saying. It needs to be a player of a certain tier to come in and replace a lot of our players that are starting at the moment for me. Like, if you're looking at the starting 11, not today's because we had a lot of injuries in the defence, but our full strength starting 11, it needs to be a proper player to come in and replace them for me personally. And if Celtic can do that, it would be fantastic. I'd be delighted, and hopefully there might be 2 or 3 of those before the end of August. That's what I'm keeping my fingers crossed for.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. I think we've got just under 5 weeks to go now. So, and the football's going to come back. We'll have the league starting. We've got the League Cup draw tomorrow. Champions League draw is a month away, a month and a couple of days. So it's all happening, John. Anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, that's been everything. I was pleased with today's performance. I thought it was good signs that Celtic are coming towards a peak at the end of pre-season, which is exactly what you want. And we'll see how it goes against Ross County next week.
Can't wait for it. Flag Day is always exciting. We'll see you soon. We'll certainly hope to have some sort of reaction to the Ross County game and anything else major that happens between now and then. Thank you once again for tuning in, everyone. We'll catch you soon.